This is the natural conclusion of the participation trophy generation. Yeah, I think it's funny because I remember a long time ago people complained about participation trophies. You get a trophy for just standing there. What's the next step when the pendulum swings? Well, you're getting awarded for doing nothing. So you're basically not good at whatever it is you're supposed to be doing, but we're going to give you things anyway. Mm-hmm. People have learned that victimhood, weakness, is prized above strength. We've created we used to be a culture that was too much, in my opinion, prioritizing pure strength. Mm-hmm. And then I think there's a happy medium where we're like, well, we got to lean towards merit. You got to be good at what you do. We definitely want to protect people who aren't as good. We don't want people dying in the streets. It's ridiculous. Mm-hmm. But now we're flipped in the other direction. If you're really good at what you do, you're a problem. Mm-hmm. You're privileged.
Yeah.
Oh man.
From my perspective, and I'll just give a biblical perspective, is I think it's an attack on God's image, because if you take a biblical perspective, men are designed to be men, right? And there's always been an attack on masculinity. Why? Why is it wrong? Why is it evil? Why is it twisted for a man to want to be who he is? We've gotten to the point where that's fine. Listen, if you want to say who you are, whatever, you want to live in La La Land, you want to identify as a unicorn, then go, fine, go do that. That's fine. But don't force me. Don't force me to have to live like that and address you the same way. See, that's where I defer, because there's always this attack on who we are as people. If I want to be a masculine male, that's okay. That's fine, because that's who I am. It's not racist. It's not misogynist. It's not demeaning women. No, it's normal. Why can't I be who I am, Tim? Why can't I be who I am in 2020?
Wait. You're okay.
Why, Tim?
You're not white.
But why can't I be who I am? There are millions of people out there that are like, why can't I be a masculine man? I love going out. I love, getting dirty, not in a weird sexual way. Some people might, but, I love going out, getting my hands dirty, putting my hands on things, being a man's man. That's what I love to do. But
That's
now,
toxic, bro.
But now it's toxic. Why?
It's patriarchy.
Because some leftist in a think tank said so, because they had some weird statistic in their college, or they had some weird upbringing. I don't care. Why can't I just be who I am?
You want to know? I noticed something, and I believe this has actually been proven in several studies, and several other individuals on big YouTubers I know have talked to me about this. You go to the RNC, and what do you typically see? The dudes are all tall, chiseled, rugged. The women are all slim and busty and attractive. You go to the DNC and what do you see? The guys are all short, frumpy, overweight, and unattractive, and the women are overweight as well. And I was reading something about why that is, and the general idea that I've come up with, because I was reading something about the trend being true. Generally, the Republicans have a skew slightly towards more attractive, and whether or not it's true because of one study is not the point. I will say anecdotally I've witnessed this. And I was talking to another person, I don't want to drag them into this, but they're a high-profile YouTuber who covers politics who mentioned they noticed this as well, and they're on the left. And so my conclusion is it's really simple, actually. If you're a very tall, deep-voiced, attractive man, you're going to get through life easier than a short, weak, out-of-shape man. And you are going to then think, if I could do it on my own, everyone else can too. Or at least you'll be like, I want to be left alone and succeed on my own because I've done better on my own. Because people are more likely to favor you or help you because you're an attractive, tall, commanding individual. Leadership might be easier for you. In fact, when I used to do fundraising for nonprofits, there were two big factors that, and I'm just going to say it's true. If the dude was tall, he would raise more money than everybody else. And if the woman was just like your average, slim, attractive woman, absolutely would raise more money than everybody else. It was very, very obvious. There were things like people like tall guys. Tall guys, are commanding and people take them seriously. So you take an individual like that, more likely to succeed and have an easier go of doing these jobs. They're going to be Republicans talking about individualism and being left alone. Let me survive on my own. You take these other people who are unattractive and out of shape and they struggle. So they band together and form collectives and then vote for collectivism because life isn't easy,
And I understand that, but at the same time, I think it has to do with what we prize. Because why, whatever. If you're not, like Barron Trump, you're like pushing.
Man, he's like 6'5".
Yeah, you're gonna be like 7 foot. You're not LeBron James. You're not this like alpha male figure. Like maybe you're called to just be an honest father.
Maybe you just gotta.
Maybe you're called to be a faithful husband. Maybe you're called to be an amazing mom. Like there's like, I think the American dream has been so skewed where it's attached with like a monetary value or it's attached with fame. I think it has to do with what our prize is. Some people, they prize being an amazing mother, which is fine, and I uphold those people
great.
because we need that right now, especially in the Black community. The Black community is suffering from father figures. Right now, I would, LeBron James, the dude's a joke, but I think right now we need to uplift Black male fathers. Those people need to be highlighted in the media more than LeBron James right now, because the Black community doesn't need LeBron James. The Black community needs fathers.
Well, isn't he a good father though?
I mean, he might be, but he's not. His role in the media is not as such. Kobe was an amazing father.
He was a great father.
We need more figures like that. LeBron, his message could be whatever he wants, but right now, I think people need to focus on what they value the most. And right now, it's okay to just be a mother. It's okay to just be a father. It's okay. Prize something like that, because children need that right now.
This is a tough conversation. I'm not a big fan of the racial components of saying like the Black community needs this. I'm like, no, everybody needs this.
Everyone. But right now, the Black community, the fatherlessness right now in the Black community is huge. It's huge.
Well, this is the challenge, right? If you get specific, then you start looking at these statistics, then you know what I say? I defer to Candace Owens, for instance, because far be it for me to tell her what her community needs, but she's definitely brought this up. And I think Kanye West has as well, which is why it's so interesting that Black Lives Matter wants to disrupt the nuclear family structure, which really does help people out a lot. It's tough.
Communist Manifesto.
But I'll tell you this, what I think we're seeing right now with a lot of this is we went through a period where we accepted negative rights. I have a negative right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, meaning you leave me alone. But the left is now starting to assert they have a positive right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, which is a really interesting thing. I was talking to a friend of mine who said healthcare is a human right. And I said, how do you have a right to someone else's labor? And he said, because how can you have life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness without, healthcare or whatever? And I'm like, bro, you're talking positive rights. You know what that means?
Yeah.
You have no positive right to things from me. And I was saying, like, we have government programs and services you have access to, and you have a right to them in the sense that you can apply like everybody else, but they can terminate. That's not a right. You have a right to free speech. You can go out and say, for the most part, whatever you want. The way I always structure, the way I view this, the way rights are is, for the most part, negative rights. Like, if you were in the middle of the woods by yourself, what can you do? You can freely move around. You can say whatever you want. You can sharpen a stick into a weapon, defend yourself. You can grow food. You can live, and you can be left alone.
Yeah.
And those are your rights. Anybody who comes and tries to interfere with those, you have a right to defend yourself. But tell me about your positive right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Ain't nobody in the forest going to help you. There's no one there. You're not going to get health care from this. You're going to be on your own.
Exactly.
So when people say, like, you've got to call me this name, that's a positive assertion towards their identity, a positive right. You don't have that. You have a negative right, meaning you can't, you're free to exist as you are, but you can't tell me what I have to do within reason, right?
Exactly.
We have laws to prevent certain things. I think one of the big challenges we're having right now as well is that in these big cities, everybody lives on top of each other, and that's when your rights are gone. So where we are right now, kind of out in the suburbs, I can play music way late because, it might be a little noisy to a certain degree, but people aren't going to hear me in their homes. You live in New York, you can't have a drum kit. I don't know where in New York you just rent a warehouse or something. Yeah. Maybe you're rich enough to own the building or be on the roof, but any one of these apartments, you can't play music, you can't play drums, you can't sing. Neighbors will complain, and you can't cook nasty food. You know what a durian is? It's like this East Asian fruit that smells like a rotting corpse. And so, like, you go to Thailand and you walk on the train, and there are signs saying no durian because it smells so awful. Apparently, it tastes great. Like I was told, it tastes like a creamy almond almost. But you can't. Ooh. If you cracked one of these things open in an apartment building in New York, they would revolt. They'd be banging on your door. The cops would probably come in looking for the body. That's how bad it is. We need to get more people to be like pioneers. Why don't we get some people to actually, like, I don't know, go out into a rural area and start building stuff, you know? Just start farming, start building new things. We have such
our culture has been so invaded, right? Our culture is programmed right now to want money, fame, sex, everything, pleasure, right? That makes you valued in life. That makes you valued to our culture, right? No one values being a good father. No one values, being the best that they could be if you're a mailman, or no one values being the best that they could be if you work at a warehouse or anything like. There's no glory in that. There's no value in that. Like, and I'll put it this way, like with my career, with where I'm at right now, and the amazing things that God has blessed me to do, they mean nothing if I'm not amazing to my wife, if I don't love my wife, if I beat my wife, if I'm a total just complete jerk to my wife and she's miserable and she just hates our marriage. What does all this mean? It means nothing. And because my values are different, I would rather be the best husband in the world than a political commentator or what I'm doing right now.
Dude, think about this. You know, there's that old trope. Nobody on their deathbed ever said, "I wish I spent more time at the office." You ever hear that? Mm-hmm. It's a saying where they're trying to tell you to be there for your family. Mm-hmm. That family is the most important thing. You ever see that movie Click with Adam Sandler?
Oh yeah.
And it's like
I've cried multiple times watching that movie.
Well, but I was upset by it because they took this really fun idea of having a remote control that can control the universe and then turned it into some weird story about weird rules that took his family away from him. I don't know, whatever. Yeah. The point is, the whole movie was like, don't sacrifice your life for a career. Have a family and be there for your kids. Mm-hmm. These people don't have families. Yeah. They don't have kids. Mm-hmm. So they don't have anything to care about. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the problem.
They could.
They don't. They man, I see these posts.
They could.
Dude, I was talking to a friend of mine who told me that she got her tubes like tied and cauterized. Mm-hmm. Wow. And I was just like, my first response, I know this is gonna get me. The feminists are gonna get so mad at me. I said something like 4 billion years of evolution just came to a grinding halt with you. 4 billion generations of successful reproduction stopped at you. But she's a good friend of mine. She laughed, and she was like, "I get it, but you know, I'm happy. This is the choice I made, and whatever." And I was just like, it was meant to be kind of silly, you know. Look, you can make jokes like that with your friends. I'm sure a bunch of feminists are screaming, mm-hmm. but it's true though.
Yep,
that's scary. That every single person who came before you successfully had a family. Even that weird little like slimy fish thing that had like a tiny little nub for arms had babies, and those babies had 2 nubs. Ooh. And then eventually it was like in the shallow parts of the water, and then eventually they had a bunch of babies, and some of them were coming up on the water. Mm-hmm. And now here you are, monkeys and all that stuff, and you know, primates, lemurs, whatever it is, I don't know, whatever.
So
here we are.
Tim, I don't know if you remember, but a while ago we were reading research about what people value and what people think other people value. Do you remember the conclusions they found for women?
What is it?
Women think that followers are what's valued.
Yeah.
But they themselves value having families.
Everyone said family.
Right.
Yep. They asked everybody, what do you value and what do you think other people value? And everyone was like, other people value fame. Mm-hmm. I value family. Yep. Everybody said that.
You know,
that's
and
the secret to
there's
happiness.
Probably so many fathers listening to me right now. Like, we need that right now. America needs those kind of figures right now. Like, even though you may never be known, even though you may never get a documentary made about you, even though you may never be in the spotlight, the kids that you have been entrusted with, the wife that you've been entrusted with, that's enough. That's enough for you. Let that be enough. You don't need $1 million. You don't need to be in the spotlight. You need to be where you are right now and being the best version of that right now. And that's valuable, Tim. Like, who told us that that's not valuable? Like, you're only valuable if you're Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie and your marriage only lasts like X amount of years and you have all these kids, and now all these kids don't even know who their parents are, and now you got another girlfriend, and the divorce, it goes on and on and on and on and on and on again, and it's a chain reaction. I think it's more valuable right now to get back to our moral principles, to allow ourselves to have successful lives, not just monetarily, but relationally, even friendships.
You know what's happening is classical liberalism is being called fascism mm-hmm. by the far left. And think about the logical conclusion of everything going on. We are seeing a declining birth rate. That's the issue right now. You know what's really fascinating? I was reading, I read this Pew Research study that said Generation Z is the first generation in like 100 plus years to tick slightly conservative. They're still very much like millennials, like, progressive SJW, but a little bit more conservative, just a little bit on some things. You know why that is? It's not because there was a revelation among many young people where they were like, millennials are dumb. It's because in the early 2000s, there was a report produced talking about birth rates that found that liberals have a less than replacement birth rate and conservatives had a marginally above replacement birth rate, which meant that 20 years from then, now, young people are more likely to be conservative because conservatives were more likely to have kids. Isn't that crazy?
Also, too, and I don't have any, studies to back this up, but being a young person, right? Like growing up, especially like I was around like the punk rock and skateboard scene in SoCal, and it was just like, there's just always that sense of rebellion in you. Like, I want to rebel against what is mainstream. And I think mainstream is kind of being like this SJW right now. But I think the next generation coming up is kind of like, I don't want to be that. I kind of want to be the opposite, because I just want to be like a douche and just do it.
Could you imagine being one of these like 18-year-old Gen Z, like total conformist pro-Biden losers? This is the craziest thing to me, dude. It's like, when I was young, I hated both parties. I hated the system. I was like, y'all are dumb. I don't care. I'm going to do my thing. F you. I'm out.
Yep.
Now I'm seeing these videos, and it's like you get all these Gen Z people being like, orange man bad. And I'm like, that's so cute of you to copy what the corporations are doing. That's like so very conformist of you.
They're just on Snapchat, TikTok all day.
But it's like
being propagandized.
And it's I wouldn't say it's too dissimilar from those that are sycophantic towards Trump, but there was a really funny post I was reading. I love it when these lefties like to say things like Tim Pool would have been opposed to civil rights if he was alive in the 50s. And it's really funny because my family is mixed race, and I'm like, bro, you don't get to say that. That literally makes no sense. I'm totally in favor of all of those things. There was a story I was reading where like a teacher was talking to these kids. And the teacher asked the kids, do you think you would have been an abolitionist in the 1800s? And they all said yes. And he said, then tell me what it is today which idea you've publicly supported that is unpopular and would get you fired from your jobs or would get you ostracized or banned from the internet. And nobody had anything to say. No one. And the point being made was in the 1800s, like early 1800s, abolition was unpopular. And these people were like frowned upon and shunned, but they knew what was right and they stood for it and they ultimately won. Today, I guess the point of the story was that if you are just going along with what's the saying? If you ever find yourself on the side of the majority, you need to stop and self-reflect. Who was that? Was that Mark Twain or something?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. All of these young people, I'm not surprised by it. They're being told by the machine, to conform, be put in this little box, and they just go along with it. And that makes total sense. Like all the people I know who went to college, I'm like, did you even stop to think for 2 seconds before you did this? No. Now they got $100K in debt. They're demanding everyone else pay for it.
I was at when I was in Chicago before Kenosha broke. We were documenting some of the Black Lives Matter rallies, protests in the city, and they specifically had one. We went to a specific one because it was high school occupied, a bunch of high school kids, right? And they had the media there. ABC was there. They were all there. They were giving speeches on live TV. One of the activists jumps on the mic and she says, police, Chicago PD, are hunting us. This is the word she used. It's all on camera. Like I said last night, go to my Twitter, Lives Matter Show. You can see it. I have nothing to hide.
Hunting us.
Hunting.
Jeez.
We're being hunted on live TV. She said this. So the next day, right, I'm walking around downtown Chicago. And I just happened to walk past a group of police officers that were holding down a security checkpoint because the looting, like Elijah told you guys the other night, there's blocks just secured right now. And it was a high-end retail area. And what do I see across the street from the police officers? A group of black women in a high-end retail restaurant laughing, enjoying themselves, probably eating a plate that probably cost maybe like $65, not being hunted.
Of course.
How much of that is happening on a daily basis?
What, the lies?
When they come out and say something and people believe it. But here's what I want to point out. There were teenagers that were being used to put out this kind of propaganda. And I
Dude.
think that needs to be highlighted because these are minors. You can easily manipulate their minds.
I was talking to a friend of mine, very, very adamant progressive, who was like, you don't understand. People are dying every day. And I said, who? What? Well, who is dying? Dude, George Floyd, aren't you paying attention? I know. But you said people, more than one person. I just didn't know if there was another story of another person. And they're like, well, tons of people have died. Like the cops are killing people. And I was like, how many?
Tons.
How many? They're like, I don't know. Does it matter? And I'm like, I mean, to be completely honest, you said people are dying every day. I'm just asking for the number. I think one person dying, we should talk about why that happened. Mm-hmm. But sometimes accidents happen. Like, guy gets in a car accident. We don't immediately say like, reform all cars, shut down all, accelerators. All cars must go a static 20 miles an hour. We don't do that. We just say, oh, that was unfortunate. That shouldn't have happened. And sometimes people make mistakes while driving. We say that was their fault, but, it was an accident.
You know what I find ridiculous is, because I instantly want to come out and say, well, what about David Dorn, right? His black life, did he matter, right? But a leftist, SJW, whatever, they'll come out and say, we're not talking about that right now. We're talking about police brutality. And I'm just like, why? Why just that?
Then why
just that? If Black Lives Matter, why don't all Black Lives matter? If Black Lives matter, then why doesn't every single black life that is unjustifiably taken blasted in the media? Why? But I know the answer to this question. You know the answer to this question. But I'm saying these things because I know there are people watching that have probably never even thought about that before. Why? Because like I said earlier, it's a political tool in their hand, and it only sensationalizes black people getting unjustly shot by police.
Because it furthers a particular goal of abolishing the police.
Exactly.
Of abolishing prisons.
And that is
the
an
only
agenda.
end result for getting rid of police and prisons is just the deterioration and chaos. There's no, this is the point I was going to say.
And to bring in their new regime.
There's not going to be a new regime.
I think there would be.
They think that, it'll be roving bands of idiots with baseball bats and purple hair smashing things up. It will not be fun. But there's not going to be a regime. Look at Libya. Mm-hmm. Okay, it's going to be warring factions for 100 years. And you know who's going to take over? Do you think it's going to be the SJW, loonies who are crying and only powerful because they swarm people with their friends? Or do you think it's going to be the commando-like militias and more right-wing ultra-traditionalists who protect their women, and the women agree with it?
Yeah.
They're going to go out. I mean, we hear it all the time when we talk about civil war. The right likes to say, look who's got the guns. And I'm like, that's not the case. Okay, let me just put this simply for you. If the far left is gaining a foothold in the government and they're expanding this ideology, and we get this guy, this Antifa guy, going on TV claiming he was just defending a person of color, and that works, then the Civil War won't be about who has the guns. It'll be about who controls the government and the military.
Yep.
That's the point.
Yep.
So there will be cars racing to the White House, and it's going to be Biden and Trump both declaring victory, both running up to the Secret Service and going, arrest him.
Yep.
And the Secret Service is going to go, who's going to get arrested?
And patriots in the Secret Service, patriots in the military, patriots in the National Guard, patriots in LAPD, police departments, they're all going to have to start making some serious decisions. Who do you serve? Do you serve the Constitution of the United States, or do you serve these radical authoritarians that want to control you?
That's not correct. Because the people on the far left think they are serving the Constitution. Mm-hmm. They assert that Trump is the one violating the Constitution.
But they're not.
But they're not what? Violating.
That's not
listen.
accurate in their heads. That's what they may think and perceive, but that's not what's reality.
But it doesn't matter. If they think it, they'll draw a gun and point their bullets at it. So what's going to happen is you're going to end up with Biden and Trump speeding up, getting out of their cars, yelling, arrest him. This is an exaggerated, fictionalized scenario, dramatized scenario. It'll be something to this effect, I guess. And then what's the person going to think? What media do they watch? If CNN comes out and says definitive proof Donald Trump cheated, and Facebook shuts down Trump's account so Trump can't speak, Biden wins.
Yep.
Hands down. Because they're going to be like, the only thing I heard is that Donald Trump is trying to cheat, so we're going to protect Joe Biden.
Yep. The narrative will be Donald Trump lost. He doesn't want to leave the White House. Therefore, we have to go in there and forcibly, what did Nancy Pelosi say?
Drag him out or something?
No, she used bug spray term. what is it when you your house fumigate?
Fumigate.
Oh, wow.
Imagine that. Imagine the Speaker of the House saying, we might have to fumigate
That's not
the President of the United
incendiary
States
at all.
Well, the military, at least some military,
Fumigate.
have said they won't intervene. But I don't know what's going to happen. I think what's going to happen is you're going to see. In this War Game article they wrote, they said alternative media will start spreading lies defending Trump. That's the game they're going to play.
They're setting all of us up.
They're
setting us up to be the liars. They're setting us up, even though we may be bearers of truth. The propaganda. Remember what I told you guys last night, and you already know this, is the narrative gets set months, years ahead.
Right.
That's what all these articles are. So people are already being programmed to anticipate something.
Mail-in voting is
right?
safe.
They're
Ignore
being
all the
programmed
evidence.
to anticipate that this could possibly happen. Oh, we want to be on the right side of history. I don't want to be shot or something. I don't want to be a scene looking like I'm resisting a free election. No, this is propaganda, and people need to understand this is being set. The stage is being set for the election to be, in my opinion, undermined. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for checking out this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. We do the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. So come back to check us out when we go live. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button, hit the notification bell, and we are also available on all podcast platforms for free if you want to listen to us there. Thanks for hanging out, and we will see you all next time.